Okay, so
Yes.
could you explain me the curve of your characters in this movie because it really changed from the first one?
Yes, well, in particular for Patrick, he really got the
Got the brunt of it.
got the brunt of
Got
it.
the work
yeah.
of it. Yeah, well, we continue on with the first film. That's what, I think what makes this movie different than I think a lot of horror movies where you have everybody back, so you can really afford to be able to take the story and move it into uncharted territory. So with these characters, certainly they don't have that. Our characters don't have the same relationship. Sort of in the first one, we were banding together for the sake of our son, and in this one, Daddy's got some issues, and so all the fears from the first one of him being caught in the further, as we call it, come to fruition. So it's sort of, so we each have our own struggles. So in a lot of ways, we weren't on the same page for most of the movie.
Yeah, it was a different experience filming it, for sure.
And when James came with the first movie, he already have been thinking about the second one, or it just came after the success of
I
the...
don't think so at that point.
Yeah.
No, it felt...
Yeah, I don't think I think, he saw with Saw, truthfully, where that went, and he said he's never really gone into something thinking, oh, this could set up a franchise, yeah. But I think about halfway through this movie, the first one when we were shooting it, and certainly by the end, you felt like, oh no, there's a story to tell. They just had to, and look, we shot the first one in 2010, so here we are 3.5 years later. Not, obviously, if they really wanted to just slam it out, we would have done it then.
sooner,
So they really needed to take the time to make the right story.
So what's your favorite part of the movie?
I think it's really interesting what Patrick does in the movie. Because he plays like such a badass so well. It's great. He's so, look at, it's like deceiving. Like the,
Look at that.
you know what I'm saying? And then the change happens.
Yeah.
That's cool.
How do you feel working with James after all this time? Because how the relationship with him has changed?
Well, I don't know how it's changed. We have a great working relationship. James is like the hardest working guy that I know. I always just sort of, he'll text him randomly and he'll say, I'm going out to dinner. Like he's so happy that he's doing something not related to a film. Because he's a workaholic.
Yeah.
He's always working. So obviously we have a great work. I have now 3 films with the guy, so we both work with him quite a bit now. He's just one of those guys that you feel very fortunate to sort of. I think his best movies are still ahead of him, and I think he's. If you look at the difference between, say, Saw and Conjuring in this movie, they're completely different. It couldn't be further apart, even within the horror genre. And I think he's always pushing boundaries. And I think he'll do that in any genre, really. I think, which is really exciting.
What's your favorite horror movies?
I really enjoyed The Conjuring this year. I thought it was really fun. And then, all-time favorite horror. I liked Drag Me to Hell, the Sam Raimi film that came out a few years ago. That was really fun. And then, The Shining and The Exorcist. And,
Poltergeist was big for me when it came out.
Yeah,
I think a lot of that too. I think a lot of of people's, you rarely hear somebody loving their favorite horror movie because they saw it on their iPad. So much of a horror movie is like I saw it in the theater and feeling it, the people, and I saw it with my friends, or I remember being a kid when you watch a horror movie as a kid and you just are terrified as a child.
It's really powerful.
It's very, very. It really rings true for a long time.
Witch Project, I remember being quite an event when I was
I do, but part of that was
20.
the event.
Yeah,
it's like the line
this-
around the block.
yeah,
There's only one theater showing it.
it
That's.
became a real phenomenon.
Yeah, I think that's exciting, and truthfully, this summer with Conjuring, they were in a lot of the more religious-based areas or towns. They would put out signs like there will be a priest at the screening afterwards. I think that sort of feeds the mystique of how scary is this,
The friend